Let's now move on to the third point, data isolation. What do we mean by this? We know software programs are the efforts of different programmers where they use different files, where each file uses different file structures, and obviously they may store their data in different locations as well. So obviously the data are scattered in different files in file systems. In such a case, isolating the real data that we require is a problem, because our files may be in different locations, and that's why data isolation is really difficult with file systems. But in database management system, all the records are going to be stored in a central place, which is the database. And that's why whenever any change is made in one place, all the associated places gets updated automatically. At the same time, data can be easily isolated because all the data are in one database. And you may be asking, how come? If that database fails, what we should do? All data will be gone, right? No problem, we can take backups periodically and we can synchronize the backup with the up-to-date data. So we are done with the third point, the data isolation. Let's now move on to the fourth one, the integrity problems. What do we mean by integrity problems? Suppose I want to enforce some constraints or conditions to my data, which is actually stored in the file system. Let me bring an example file. We know all employees will have salary, but here I am updating Alicia's salary as 0. Do you think 0 is a valid salary? No. But see, file system is accepting this value, isn't it? Because there is no way in this file system to enforce some conditions that the salary value should not be 0. So that's one of the biggest problems with file system. So when we want to enforce some conditions, then definitely it is not possible with this file system. To some extent we can handle this in Microsoft Excel, but again, as I mentioned, this file system cannot be a complete backend because there are several drawbacks and we are dealing all the drawbacks one by one. At the same time, if the employee ID is purely a number type, and when I start giving a random text, it's accepting because no constraints can be enforced here. So this is also one of the problems with the file systems. So coming to the integrity problems, we cannot enforce consistency constraints into the files. Example, the account balance in a banking database should not be 0. If this is maintained in a file system, definitely it's really difficult. But when it is a database system, when we enforce a condition that account balance should not be 0, whenever any update or insert is carried out on that particular row, and if the condition is not satisfied, then that activity will not be permitted in databases. See how powerful databases are. Of course, we can easily enforce these constraints or conditions in a software code. So it's really easy to add the conditions in software code, but not in the files. And that's what we have seen just now. Think you have enforced some constraints and suddenly we want to enforce some new constraints. Again, this is also a problem with the file systems, but in database management systems, anytime whatever constraints we want to enforce, we can do that because databases are really a savior for all these problems. And we have one more biggest integrity problem with file system, which is this problem. The integrity problem is compounded when the constraints involve several data items from different files. Imagine our data is scattered or stored in different places, different files, different locations. In that case, enforcing some constraints when it involves several data items will be really a tough task. But this will not be the case in database management system because all the required data will be in our database in one place. So we are done with the fourth problem, the integrity problem.